All right, the primary purpose of this event is to have a coffee reception for those legislators who are newly elected and are Second Amendment defenders. And there are several of them, and when I call your names, if you would stand, please. Carl Bonnick, are you here, Carl? Not here yet. Riley Linting, Jennifer Wart, Parker Fairborn, Steve Frisbee, Ron Robinson, Jason Wolford, Joseph Pavlov, and then returning this year, but they had a lap in between, are Tim Kelly and Nancy Jenkins Arno. So I welcome our Second Amendment defenders to this event, which is primarily designed to introduce the legislators to us. We want to be your resource. And so while the public was welcome at this event, the target audience was the House of Representatives, because we want to tell you the positive things you can do to help preserve our Second Amendment rights. Starting off, we have witnesses who are going to talk to you about why they became involved in Second Amendment issues. And first up is Linda Williams. Linda, come on up.
Okay.
We don't have to come up. We can do it right there.
No. Marcy, she has to come up.
She does?
Yeah, everybody's set up for the camera.
Oh, right. I'll go where you want me to go.
Use the
Right
mic.
there. Okay. Hello.
I will identify myself. I'm Linda Williams. I am a retired special ed teacher, a wife of 53 years, a mother of 3 married children, a grandmother of 10, a member of the Armed Women of America. And one of the things that I wanted to share with you was my experience. My experience of why I am a gun owner and a gun carrier. My experience is this, that while my husband and I were walking in a mall to buy towels, we went down a corridor to go to a particular store. All of the stores were closed on that corridor, and it quickly became obvious to me this is a gauntlet. And as we were walking, I'm talking to my husband, and I have the habit of always putting my purse between us, not on the outside. It's too easy target. I put it between us. I turn to my husband and I look at him, and I see behind him a young man who is dancing around very suspiciously. As a teacher, that's red flag. He is giggling to himself and dancing and rubbing his hands together. But he's not looking at us, he's looking over here. So I turn over here to see what is over there, and there's a young man who is looking at us, who is just looking at us. And I'm thinking, okay, there's 2. Is there a third? And I turned all the way around and I saw the third. He's walking straight, intently, with his eyes fixed on us. And I'm thinking, oh dear, this is the one time we're not carrying. And I've got nothing except the teacher look. So I turned around and I locked eyes with him as quickly as I could to tell him, I see you, I can make you, I can identify you. You don't want to do this. Looking as stern as I could. So as we walked, I'm measuring how fast can we get to this store. And gee, I wish the stores were open here, because I would have just ducked into them. As we got to the store, we quickly ducked to the side, and I turned around and they were gone. So I'm calculating the time, and I'm thinking, well, the time that it took me to identify him, he decided that that wasn't a good target. So my husband and I talked about that, and we said, this is not a good thing. We need to carry. We need to carry where it is legal, and we need to we need to go forth with that and be honest with it and be good thinkers, because good people who carry must be good thinkers before they are good shooters.
Linda, were you going to talk about your experience as a teacher when they told you to put the children under the desk?
Oh, yes. I was in a school in Jackson, and we had a lockdown practice, and I had already figured out where I would put these children in my special ed room and how to coach them to be quiet. And where I thought I would put them was not where they told me, in no uncertain terms. I was to put them under my desk. There was a thin wood bookshelf in front of the desk that anything could go through it. I thought, that's not good. There, across from the door, if my desk was here, the door was there. That was not good. I had already secured everything I could. I pulled the drapes, we covered up the windows, we had done everything except we didn't get behind the heavy block wall. That was what we needed to do, and I was not happy. I was thinking, we need to talk these things out, and the teacher has got, she knows her room. She's got to be the one that knows the safest place to put those children. At another school, we practiced. We practiced lockdowns, what we would do. Somebody walks through the school, but this school didn't do it. And I felt so vulnerable. And any teacher worth their salt is going to be the one that protects her children and tries to stop any shooter. And that's what I had to decide. Where do I sit? There is no place for me to sit. So I will have to be out here to be the target, and they've got to be safe.
Thank you, Linda.
Thank you.
We had expected Linda Lee Tarver today to talk about her experience wherein she had 3 family members murdered, and also scary times in Detroit when she served as Civil Rights Commissioner, but she was at the inauguration festivities and she came home with the inauguration flu, so she's not here. But we do have Judy Bivens. Judy, can you come on up? Judy is from Jackson, and she's going to talk to you about a church security team.
Well, as you know, probably it was, I think it was 1980 was the first time that we were reading about churches being attacked by a shooter. And so, you know, every year since then, it's been increasing. And it took a long time basically for churches to start ramping up their security programs so that their people could be protected. And we had such a man in our congregation. He was a state police officer, and he actually was going around to different churches and instituting the security programs for their churches and training them as to know what to do if an active shooter came on the scene. So actually at our church, he went ahead and solicited for all the people that were CPL holders, and a lot of guys came, although I shouldn't say a lot, 10 or something like that. They came, but most of them, well, they were young or middle-aged. There was no women involved in this. So here I am, not saying anything, and here I already was a member of the Brooklyn Sportsman Club. I had my CPL. I belonged to the, at that time, Armed Women of America. I practiced hours and hours every week. And I even did the NRA challenge where you had to get so many points to get a badge. Well, here I am, not saying a thing, because after all, I'm an old lady. What would I know about it, right? So anyway, I was going to show you, if they would have seen my hat, if I would have wore it and they would have seen it, they'd have known, hey, that girl knows something about shooting. So here I am with all these badges. Well, they let me come to the training, and I went. And our church at that time had already been having threats that there was a guy in the church actually who would come visiting, but he was a mental person. And he would call and say that he's gonna come the next Sunday and cause a big disturbance. So they would have to figure out, the procedure to not let him even in the building if he was gonna come with that frame of mind. So they would meet him out in the parking lot. When they saw his car pull in, they'd go out there, a couple guys, and say, hey, and they would question him about what he was doing. And they wouldn't even let him in if he was in that frame of mind where they thought he was gonna have a gun or something, so they didn't let him in. But our church goes, we have 4 teams, 4 on each team, but every Sunday, all 16 of us carry a carry. We're not on duty every week because obviously somebody would never get to go to church. So we have 4 entrances of the church that we leave open. There's a person on each door, plus all the people coming in that are always watching for strange things. And when church starts, 15 minutes after, they lock all the doors, and then there's somebody on every entrance to make sure if somebody's coming late, they know the person and they're gonna let them in, because obviously these shooters are so chicken, really. They wait until everybody's in the congregation, sitting there like sitting ducks, and they come in and just mow them down. So we're not gonna allow that to happen. If it happens, I don't know how it can happen because of our security situation the way it is. We had one guy come in, he came in after the service, and one of the people let him in. He went in and sat on the first row. He had a backpack on, so I'm sitting there looking at the other security people in the church, and we're kind of nodding our head, watching him. He did absolutely nothing. I think he just was a walker, and he had that stuff in his backpack. But as we was going out of the church, the guys out in the back saw me coming, and they were all gathered in a circle because they were all observing this guy. And they said, oh, we knew we'd be safe because you'd probably be the first one to draw. So anyway, of course they teased me because I'm the old lady, but I have a lot of fun with them. But we have rules and we follow them. And it's the Second Amendment is a treasure for us, and I'm praying that all these people that stand up for our government and get elected to office, they never let us lose that Second Amendment, because we'd be dead without it in this world we're living today. So
Thank you, Judy.
praying for all of you.
Part of the reason why we have organized is, as I've spoken to legislators, they have commented that very often you get moms in red t-shirts who are angry here telling you what they think about guns, and they never hear from us, from our side. And that's why we have the teal t-shirts, and that's why we're promoting that. We wanted to let you know we're here for you, and as we're organizing, we're not only here for you here in Lansing, we want to be here for you in your home district. If you're having coffees, if you're having meetings where you want people there in teal t-shirts to say, hey, he's a great guy standing, or she's a great gal standing up for the Second Amendment, we want to be there for you. And that's the primary reason of this event today. And we also have another reason. Recently, three bills went up to the governor's desk, including the Snitch Act, and that's what I call it. And what that bill provides is for school assemblies to talk to students, and then they can go home and teachers talk to the students, and where does your dad keep your gun? Their gun. Do they have a gun? Where does your mom keep a gun? And then they have an anonymous tip line they can call if they've learned about the safe storage laws and they think maybe mom and dad aren't safe. Where does that go? It goes to the Michigan State Police. Who's in charge of the Michigan State Police? Governor Whitmer. They don't need to know if dad has a gun. They don't need to know any of those things. And is that probable cause? That worries me. So they allocated $1 million for that, and I would like to make one suggestion that you could do. Maybe you could reallocate that for a program like Faster Saves Lives to do something that really works instead of something that's just a feel-good kind of we punished law-abiding gun owners things. And so for that reason, I would like to bring up Amanda Suffolcool, and she is the person who's going to talk to you about Faster Saves Lives. And I'm going to just turn it over to her because she can tell you all about it better than I can. She's an engineer. She's been very involved in Women for Gun Rights, and she's also on the NRA Board of Directors. Amanda.
Thank you very much, Marcy. So the anti-gun people and the pro-gun people are in agreement on one thing, and that is that our children should not be singled out. Our children should not be targeted, and our children are our most precious resource. What we do is we disagree on how we go about making sure that we protect our children. And a few years ago, we created a program, the government created a program to make guns illegal in school. And as we see right now, that did not work. So what it's done is it's made good guys with guns illegal in school, and bad guys with guns are lawbreakers. So Ohio started to lead the way with a program called FASTER. And FASTER Saves Lives is a faculty, I can never remember the letter, so please forgive me. Faculty administration, school safety, something. But the gist of it is that when you start to look at statistics and data on schools and school shootings, that the bad guy, the aggressor, stops when someone challenges them. So how long does it take for the police, as well-meaning as they are, to get to a school? Right? It's minutes. And sometimes they never come. I mean, look at Uvalde. I mean, there are times when there's an expectation. There's times when we know something bad is happening and then no one is coming. So we heard from a school teacher who said she's looking at a room, she's trying to figure out how to protect her children, and come to the conclusion that she will put herself out there first. She will put her body in front of that of her students to protect them. She protects those children as if they are her children. She protects our children as her children. So FASTER Saves Lives is a two-part program, and one of them is that it provides extreme trauma medical. So did you know that in many school shootings, the student does not actually succumb? It's not an immediate, they are shot and they are dead. As horrible it is to use that word, it truly becomes the EMTs and the security, the police will not let the EMTs and first responders into a school until they are sure that there is not a second or a third shooter. If you read the book, Why Meadow Died, Meadow Pollock's wounds should not have been life-ending. It was the 45 minutes that she laid there wounded with no help, no band-aids, no tourniquets, no help, that she succumbed from those wounds. So FASTER Saves Lives, the program, one of the things, and sometimes this is the easiest part to implement, is a medical part. And so you will teach and do an extreme trauma. When you think about the teachers, there are some teachers who are very willing to say, I will be a first responder, I will carry a gun, I will do that. There's others who are nurturers who say, I cannot carry a gun. Can you carry a first aid kit? Can you use a tourniquet? Will you take care of anyone who is wounded or hurt? So FASTER Saves Lives has extreme trauma medical training for the people who are interested and are willing. That will save lives. Once that happens, the second level of it is you really want to, okay, we feel good about the fact that we've bandaged these people, we've given them tourniquets, we've done all that. Let's figure out how to stop it. And so the second level of that is to arm school staff. And it doesn't have to necessarily be the teacher. It can be the janitor, it can be the lunch lady, it can be the school administrator. The more firearms and the more pushback that you have in a school, the faster you can shut it down, the faster you can stop it. And that's really the goal, and that is really what FASTER is about, is stopping an act of killing before it gets traction. And so we have FASTER Ohio, Arizona has implemented FASTER, Colorado has implemented FASTER, Virginia is talking about it right now. Indiana is working with a program like that. Texas has a Guardian program. Florida has a program. And we are urging each state to use FASTER as a resource. Call us. We will send people out to talk to you. We will send people to talk to you. We will provide you with the data and the information for these successful programs. As of right now, we have in the states of Ohio and Colorado have 6,000 man-years of armed staff in schools. We have not had an active killer situation in a school where we have armed staff. We've had attempts. We've not had a completion. So that says success, absolute success. We have 5.6 million man-hours carrying guns. And you don't hear, because the other argument you get is, well, if a teacher's got a gun, the kid's gonna hug them, the kid, this and that. 5.6 million man-years with safe gun carrying and handling in schools. We need to protect our children, and we've got a program that will do it. So allow us to help you. Thank you. If you have any questions for myself or for Marcy or for the other two ladies, just feel free.
I just noticed that Senator Jonathan Lindsay has joined us, and I would like him to come up and say just a few words. I would like to thank him for helping to sponsor this event, and the other sponsor was Representative Kathy Schmaltz. She's coming later. She had a meeting in Jackson, and then she'll be here. Right after Senator Lindsay speaks, we will open it for questions from anyone.
Well, thank you, Marcy. Thank you to everyone from Women for Gun Rights and everyone for being here. I didn't really expect to be talking to the group, but it's always exciting to see activists come up to Lansing, stand for something like the Second Amendment. And I guess all I'll say this morning is that the critical thing we all have to think about when we leave today is how to go out and talk to our neighbors, get people involved in the movement. We've all seen it. We've got a lot of legislators in the room. When the left brings up really anti-Second Amendment guns, they've done a pretty good job of organizing their shock troops, bringing people in, giving the appearance that they have the majority. But we know when we go and talk to people in our districts all across the state of Michigan that that's not true. That's why they have to focus so hard on creating this appearance. But it's equally important for us to go out and talk to our friends, our neighbors, our congregants in our churches, everybody you can think of, and just tell these stories about how important it is. You know, they always want to frame the issue as being something different than it is. But we know, especially from groups like this, that one of the core reasons that we care so deeply about protecting the Second Amendment is because it is a layer of defense for the people who aren't able to go out and, fight somebody with their fist or something like that, right? It's an equalizer across the field that especially has been, disproportionately valuable for women who want to make sure that they're able to defend themselves. So I want to thank all the activists again, Marcy, for putting this together, everybody who's been involved. And again, when we leave here today, I think the takeaway is go out and talk to people and bring them in. Ask them if they've been involved in something like this or other groups. And we've got to be always on that. Just because we just had a really good election cycle this last cycle, it's not enough. We've got to keep going all the way through this year. We've got to watch all of the legislation, and we've got to keep people involved. So thank you again, Marcy. Thank you, everyone, for being here.
If you have questions, please raise your hand, and I'll try to bring the mic around, or if you can shout out, that's all right, too. Just tell us who you want to ask. Yes?
So, in terms of the Vassar State Park, has it been carried out that an actual gun has been used to protect children in any of these areas that you spoke of? And secondly, what is the coverage? Because I know USCCA, is it, that covers gun owners in the event that you protect yourself, which I just attended some seminars regarding that, and the legalities to it are vast. So, two-part question, if you will.
I think that's an answer for Amanda.
Yeah, so Ohio has just passed some first responder legislation because of that. So the schools and the school insurances, there's actually an insurance program that is friendly to the schools that have armed staff, and they are protected under the umbrella policy of the school. So that, you would think, we've been told, we've been fed this bill of goods that, oh, well, you can't do that because it's dangerous. And instead, your choice is do nothing, and we know what the outcome is, or do something. And so the insurance companies are now embracing that. So that is the first part. There has been times when guns are pulled. There's not been a time when the trigger was pulled, but the gun was employed at that level of stop. And so that there are scenarios, there are stories, there are people who are armed. And one of the things about we don't videotape and tell you those stories because we want the people in the schools who are armed to be the school secret. And the reason is that we don't, if you've got a school security officer, the kids, whoever's got a plan in mind, they know where they're at, and they know what their cycle is, and they know what they look like, and they know where they're at. So if we don't tell them, then all of a sudden, if we've got one teacher out of 10 that's carrying, all 10 of them are safer because they don't know which one it is. And so that's one of the reasons why we can tell the stories, but we will not show you who they are. Yes?
We already know that the schools have extensive training on active shooters.
Mm-hmm.
I've talked to many teachers, and we've gone through the scenarios. I asked them how the training is, and they're obviously giving them the opportunity to use things.
Mm-hmm.
One teacher I know was given the opportunity to keep a baseball bat in his classroom, and they're teaching them how to throw things at the shooter.
Deterrence,
but they
correct.
won't incorporate training into how to actually defend themselves with a firearm. Give me your take on this. Money is already there for the training.
Yeah, so it really is, and I'm not sure what the regulations are in Michigan. In Ohio, it is up to each school board. So parents can have a lot of say in this by talking specifically to the school boards about it. But think about this. I mean, there is a great thing if someone has a gun and you don't, then yes, indeed, throw something at them, distract them, whatever, and run. I mean, so part of the ALICE, part of the active response, part of any of those kinds of things is get away, and teach them how. When you go down the scenario of what happened in Columbine, you will see that they were in the lunchroom, or the library was a room that had outside doors and large windows, and they called the students away from the doors and made them get under desks when the shooters came in. So because the school policy was, we can't let our students run free, and we need to know where they're at. Well, I would much rather not know where they're at than know with a casualty where they are. And so it's a mindset, it's a shift, it's a change. And so that's where we're trying to do it. But if your choice is throw your body in front of your students or get a baseball bat, if that's all that's offered to you, then I'm team bat. But if I can have another tool, if we can start to explore more and more tools for those who are willing, then that makes everyone much safer. Yes?
Not so much a question, but something that I appreciate recently is the message on arming staff. For a long time, it seems like anytime you would talk about this, they said, oh, we don't want our teachers armed. We need to arm our teachers. And for several years I've been saying, it's staff. I think some school districts have just as much support staff as they do teachers. And I think it triggered people when you said teachers. I was talking to Marcy yesterday. If a teacher's willing to do that, that's fine. But I really like the message, and I think it needs to be clear, said more often about the staff.
It is. I mean, think about a school janitor. The janitor is pretty much invisible within the school.
And he's mobile.
And he's mobile. He knows everything. He knows if there's a box sitting someplace where the box shouldn't be. He knows if somebody has moved something or shifted something or locked a door or opened a door. He knows those things. So who better? It's that kind of a thing where you start to look at who truly is engaged in watching and monitoring what's going on with their children. Yes?
And most of the time, the janitors are veterans too.
A lot of times the janitors are veterans. Very good point. Very good point. Yes?
So, obviously the Democrats lost, in Michigan, nationwide. Do you see the consequences that lost them becoming somewhat less in their, out there in their hatred of gun rights? Are they moderating on that issue, or are they just doubling down on opposing the Second Amendment?
They are doubling down and we are speaking up. So when you look at the fact that there's two platforms, the Republican platform and the Democrat platform, and one of them has an anti-gun message built right into their platform. So that gives you some of an idea. If you look at the fact that in the United States now we have constitutional carry or permitless carry in 29 states. So now we are in quantity of states, we have more states than not that are constitutional carry. In population, we have more people than not that live in constitutional carry states, and in acreage we have. So no matter how they slice it, no matter how they dice it, they cannot say that they're winning in that aspect. One of the things that has really shifted the dynamic a lot is these women's gun groups. As crazy as that may sound, but the Armed Women of America, a Girl and a Gun, those groups, now when you start to talk about somebody in a cache of weapons or whatever, they're like, hey, wait, that's my gun. And so now moms are getting involved in understanding how safety works and all of this. It had been for years that if mom said no guns in the house, there was no guns in the house. And now mom's going, can we go to the range? Will you teach me how to do this? Will you show me how to do this? Or I'm going off with the girls and I'll see you tonight. Make pizza for the kids, right? That's the shift that's happening in the United States. Any other question? Oh, yes.
Did I hear that you were how were you part of the NRA?
I was in the class of 2023 elected onto the board of directors of the NRA. So I've been an NRA instructor since 2004. I have been, I'm a degreed engineer by trade, and I'm a problem solver. And when you really started to look at things, the NRA is the largest pro-gun organization that has a voice, and that voice needs to be heard. And it needs to not necessarily always be a bearded guy in a plaid shirt. So the Second Amendment also wears lipstick.
I couldn't agree with you more. We do a lot with the NRA as a small business owner. Now, how are they supporting the program that is the...
So the NRA has a program that supplements and augments, and that is their School Shield program, where they will come into your schools, they will do an audit, they will tell you your weak areas, they will tell you your strong areas. And they are now, I just had a conversation actually with the Director of Operations to where they are going to do some cross promotion. They're completely separate programs, but they go hand in glove, one to another.
So I wonder if we can also talk about the state legislation supporting their SHIELD program, which is amazing.
Yes.
But all school districts, and I speak for ours in particular, stop the conversation as soon as NRA is a part of it.
It's really easy for them to vilify an organization because the organization is the elephant in the room.
Yeah.
And so, but it is so much larger. No pun intended, right? So it is so much larger than any of the other pro-gun organizations that is the one that they take pot shots at.
The SHIELD program is amazing.
Yes, it is. Yes.
What is your integration with alternative schools, Christian schools, churches, and things like that?
So our programs are open to them, to those folks also. So if they want to come, they can sign up for a faster class. They can learn everything that there is. There is, depending on the states, there are scholarships that are for school programs that aren't necessarily for the church programs, but the attendance is open to them. So it's a pay to attend, but they're very welcome and they get a lot out of it.
Just a comment with that. I know that in Michigan, synagogues have never had so much CPL training and all of that because of the anti-Semitism. It's an opportunity to change the direction of the whole conversation.
Correct.
In an indirect way of safety, and then it leads to
Right, and frankly, when you hit a program or a place that they're like, I'm not sure about the guns, you start with the soft hit on the medical, and then what happens is then they'll start to be like, okay, I can do this. How can I make it not happen in the first place? And and we're not the hammer kind of people. We'll offer you whatever tools you are willing and able to absorb.
I'm going to interrupt for just a short minute. Riley Linting has just joined us. She's another one of our Second Amendment newly elected representatives. Riley, would you stand? Question over here.
Okay.
Just let me make a comment. I think this FASTER program would have another aspect to it, that as you introduce the possibility of having guns in the school, you're going to re-educate some teachers who have been educated to think that all guns are evil and an AR is an assault rifle, or not just a hunting rifle. I've had a third grader come to me and say, Mrs. Williams, what's an AR? And I said, it's a rifle. Well, why are they so against it? Because they don't know any better.
And that really is, and I'm going to tell you that our goal is not necessarily to make every person that works in a school a pro-gun person, because that's not going to happen. I mean, everybody goes into education for their own reasons, whatever that is. And some of them are absolute nurturers and could not even fathom this. So that would be why we'll get on the medical, because they could do that. So we try to find a spot of where is it for them? Where are their levels? Where is their comfort? What are they willing to do? And then that is, we'll take it right up to that line, whatever that line is. Okay, any other questions? Okay, I'm going to hand it back to Marcy. Thank you so much for all your good questions and for your attention.
How many of you are familiar with the podcast that's put out by 2A Edu? Micah's here. Micah, would you come on up? If you want to know about legislation, he knows it inside, outside, and upside down. His podcast is very well followed in the gun community. And he's up here at least once a week talking to representatives about legislation. And he's going to give you just a short synopsis of what the 3 bills that just came out. And I don't know if you're familiar with that new one that just came out, that was just introduced. I'll have to look up the numbers, but it was just this week.
Let me use the other mic.
Use that mic.
Okay, how's it going, guys? So the Democrats had the trifecta for 2 years. They passed a decent amount of gun control. So what I'd like to see from the legislature here coming up is a couple things. First of all, it'd be nice to see bills to actually repeal some of the gun control that's passed. Even though the Senate won't pass it and the governor won't, people can see the difference between having Republicans and majority in the House, right? Second of all, I think the House can just simply not pass any budgets that fund some of these things, like the tip hotline that she was talking about earlier, the Capitol building ban, actually the weapon detectors that we see here in the Anderson House office building. I think all of that can be simply just literally defunded. So I think what's going on right now is we had a big shift in nationwide politics. The Senate wasn't up for re-election, but with the House having a big switchover, the Republicans won. I'm very, very optimistic of that. I think some of you guys need to get involved and go in and start repealing red flag laws. Okay? Those are probably the worst. Look, there's no such thing as any okay gun control. All of it should be invalidated by the Second Amendment, obviously. But I want to see the House really make a stand and say, look, there's elections coming up. I know you guys can't talk about that in this building, but I can. There's elections coming up, and we need to both flip, keep the House, obviously Republican majority, flip the Senate, flip the governorship, and show all these voters out there that, look, the Republicans came in, they took over one of the chambers here. If we can get the rest of it, we can get some of this stuff repealed. And I'd like to see you guys stand up with just the House alone. This is very, very important. There's a lot of money that it takes to run those weapon scanners at the Capitol building. That building is what, 1877, I believe? There's never been a shooting there. Meanwhile, we have children, as these ladies have talked about, and I fully support what they're talking about. We have children right now who are vulnerable because these gun-free zones are actually criminal empowerment zones. Because these laws only affect the law-abiding. Bad people don't follow laws and good people don't generally need laws, right? So instead of trying to have laws where we set up separate classes of people, for example, legislators can carry in the Capitol, but people like me can't. And I know most of you that were here last time certainly voted against some of these things, but this was done by a Capitol Commission. I don't know anybody who voted for anybody for the Capitol Commission. In fact, these are unelected bureaucrats in Michigan, and I'd like to see the Michigan House of Representatives take a stand through your power of the purse and defund. There was attempts by the Democrats just in this last session to make all of these buildings gun-free zones. Those failed thanks to all of you who walked out, which that was awesome and very courageous, and I appreciate all of you doing that. That was a really big move. Dozens of more things could have passed, but we just had House Bill 5450, which is now going into public act, signed by the governor. I think that's what Marcy's referring to. And it's going to have where MDHHS is going to send, actually it's very vague, it says that they have to at least send the information about the so-called safe storage law that passed and went into effect just last year. And they're going to send this not only to public schools, but to non-public schools. So that's your private schools, presumably, home schools, charter schools, all of the above. And I would like to see you guys find a way to go through and see where the funding is for that. I think you could get rid of that. I think you can get rid of that tip line. I know Representative DeSena and I were talking about that just on opening day, that this stuff does require funding. And I know that you guys, she has line item veto, and you guys can't get anything through the Senate per se that's repealing red flag laws. Still get it through the House though. That way people can see the difference. That's the big thing. And then the second thing for all the legislators, and I know a lot of you guys aren't legislators, but this is what I want you to call and talk to your legislators about, obviously, right? And the second thing is just the power of the purse. Remember, the governor can't just add something to the budget. If you refuse to pass the budget with the gun control appropriations in it, it's not going to be able to be funded. So that's my encouragement for all of you who are legislators and non-legislators. Please call your legislators, senators, representatives, and see what you guys can do.
Thank you, Mike.
Yeah, thank you.
(8:18 p.m. at Michigan State University. Ingham 911 started receiving calls of shots fired at Berkey Hall. 2 minutes later, at 8:20 p.m., officers entered Berkey Hall. 2 minutes. 8:24 p.m., McRae, the perpetrator, entered the Union, having left Berkey Hall. At 8:26 p.m. was the first report of a shooting at the Union. At 8:27 p.m., officers arrived at the Union. At 8:30, the first emergency alert notice was sent. At 8:31, a second emergency alert notice was sent. At 11:18 p.m., a photo of the suspect was shared with the MSU DPPS social media. At 11:35 p.m., Ingham County 911 received a call about a person matching the description of the suspect walking on Lake Lansing Road near High Street. At 11:49 p.m., officers approached McRae and he shot and killed himself. When seconds count, help is not only minutes away, it might be hours away. You are your own first responder. Any more questions?
Could I make a comment real quick,
Sure.
Marcy? I spoke with a young man who was on Michigan State's campus that day, and he was in his apartment, and all of their parents called them, obviously. Where are you? There's an active shooter, and what are you doing? And they said, Mom, we're locked in our apartment, and we're armed.
Anybody else? Questions, comments? Well, enjoy the food. One of the things we want to do later is take our teal t-shirts over to the Capitol building, gather in Heritage Hall, and then we will go up at 1:30 to the gallery and have a presence there of Teal for 2A. We're not angry in red t-shirts. We're calm and deliberate in lovely mental health teal. Thank you so much for coming. Feel
Thank
free
you very
to
much.
shop the booth.
Thank you.